Thank you for doing this.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And you've been a great friend to Bloom for over a decade, so it's great to be hanging out with you.
I think it was 17 years ago that I first met your
2
founder and
decades.
CEO, KR Sridhar. So I have watched it closely, but I don't think we can assume everyone has watched it closely. So why don't we start by you describing what Bloom Energy does?
Great, sure. So hi, everyone. So Bloom Energy, at its heart, is we're an energy company. And what we do is we provide power solutions, specifically on-site power, to companies that can't get fast, reliable, clean power where they need it, when they need it. And that's becoming a pretty big problem these days.
The grid is not sufficient.
No, as a matter of fact, and this is super interesting, so we're actually, I think many people know that the grid isn't ready for all that's coming or all that's already arrived. And so at scale, there's a problem, 5 to 7 year delays in some places. But in addition to that, and I was having a conversation with an EV charging company just last week. And even for as little as 1.5 megawatts, which is like basically only powers a neighborhood, right, 700 or so homes, they're going to need to wait 1.5 to 2 years for an interconnection to the grid.
Wow.
So we're talking about, I think we're staring at a problem. I think we know about the data center problem, but this problem is coming. And just even last night over dinner, talking to a couple of large manufacturers, not only is availability of power an issue, but the reliability of that power is a pretty significant issue.
So I've known about Bloom for a long time. I've known KR for a long time, but I hadn't stepped foot into one of your main factory in Fremont, California, until about 3 weeks ago, and was blown away. It doesn't look like an energy facility at all. It looks more like a semiconductor manufacturer or something. I don't want to get too deep in the technology because I know it would take the whole time we have, but can you describe a little bit how the technology works?
Right. So we are a fuel cell company. We're talking about solid oxide fuel cells, but let's not get hung up on the technology and the ceramics and all the way we build it. I think the best way to think about it is this. Historically, large-scale power has been produced by mechanical devices, right? Engines, turbines, think like those big jets, right?
And combustion.
Right, exactly. And doing that mechanically with combustion. And so what we do is really different. What we do is we take fuel. We're fuel agnostic. We can run on hydrogen. We can run on biogas. But most typically, people want to use natural gas because it's cheap and it's abundant, particularly here in the US. So we take that natural gas, we put it through our machine, put it through our hot box, and then we use an electrochemical process to create electricity. And so we're able to do that with greater reliability, clean,
efficient.
Thank you, more efficient than any other device. And especially when you're talking about really large data centers, that efficiency is important because the fuel becomes really important as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool process. There's no heat. Dig a little bit deeper into the clean part, because you are using natural gas,
right?
And an output is CO2. So what makes this process clean?
Right. So because we don't have any combustion, there's no pollution, right? So no NOx, no SOx, no pollutants.
What happens to the CO2?
Well, this is actually super interesting. So there are CO2 emissions. However, in many states, our emissions are less than the grid. So that's point one. But point two, our technology is set up so that when it comes time for carbon capture, we actually have a collaboration with Chart, so we can actually capture. And then when the time comes, we'll be able to sequester that carbon as well. So we're talking about carbon neutral, net zero use of natural gas. But here's the other thing that's actually more timely right now. I'm sure many of us are seeing data centers come up in our communities. Most people don't want to breathe the air that, that traditional electricity generation creates. And so what's really great about our technology, you can put it next to a hospital, which we do, you can put it next to a school, and there's just a much higher degree of safety and cleanliness.
But an alternative would be solar panels. Why isn't it cleaner to use solar panels?
Yeah, so the issue with solar, I mean, solar's great, and it's going to, I mean, everybody's said this now, I think, ad nauseum. It's going to take all of the above, and I think, and we certainly believe that as well. But with solar panels, it's intermittent, which means it's not, I mean, the sun only shines, depending on where you are and what time of year, X number of hours, right? And then on top of that, you still need to get the power from those solar units to where you're going to use it. So you still need transmission and distribution, and those transmission and distribution lines aren't necessarily available there.
I guess there's also a question about how the panels were made. Were the panels made in a
China,
way
exactly.
that's
exactly.
clean?
Exactly.
And the distribution point is really important. I've now seen your boxes. I mean, they look like a container box.
Basically a refrigerator, like a large refrigerator, a big sub-zero refrigerator. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I've been watching the company. I've also been watching your stock price. And in the last year, the stock price of Bloom Energy has gone from about $25 a share to $150 a share, 600% increase. What do you attribute that to?
Well, look, I've been with the company for about a year, and I'll just say this. Energy is an economic problem, right? And without energy, there is no economic prosperity. And here, when you take a look at Bloom, we're solving a problem that there aren't many solutions for right now. We know that many of the turbines reciprocating engine companies are backlogged. The grid isn't available. What that created is an opportunity for Bloom to show up and demonstrate that we actually have a unique way of solving this problem. And by the way, it happens to be a better mousetrap. So, and maybe I'll just give you a couple of facts here. From the research that we've been doing, data centers are getting bigger. In fact, when we started doing, so we publish a semi-annual data center power report. When we first published the report, just after April 2024, we were seeing data centers on average were 100 megawatt, 200 megawatt. Now what we're seeing is by 2030, about 20% of data centers are going to be at least a gigawatt. And what that means is 1 gigawatt, just to give you a frame of reference, size of a nuclear power plant, the power that San Francisco requires, right? So we're talking mega scale. So 20% of data centers. So that's point one. Point two, we've never had a situation where we've been plugging hundreds of data centers in, like, of this or anything of this scale into the grid. So the grid is not ready for it, nor is it reliable, nor is it made for it, right? So that's point two. So that's why we're seeing, and then just coming back to your question, Alan, that's why we're seeing this massive shift to on-site power.
And you all have understood this for a long time, but the market in the last year seems to.
The market not only understands it, the market desperately needs it. So what we saw in our research in April 2024, when we asked what percentage of data centers are going to be 100% using data center on-site power, the answer was 1%. So basically, none. And so when we ran the report and published it most recently in January, the answer was 33%. And I predict that, and we keep seeing it increase like 20 to 30% every time we publish.
And is there a limit? By the way, how many Bloom boxes does it take to produce a gigawatt of power?
That's a good question. I actually don't have the number off the top of my head.
You can come back to me.
I'll come back to you on that. I'll just say a lot.
A lot of Bloom boxes.
A lot. But here's what's really interesting, right? What's cool about the technology is because we're talking about refrigerators, they're very modular. So unlike solar, like if you were actually trying to do this with solar, you would have to buy acres and acres and acres of land. Right. With Bloom, you can stack them.
We've got stack them.
Exactly.
They can go up, they can go sideways.
Yeah.
And what's the constraint on the growth of Bloom technology to provide that kind of power? Is there enough natural gas? Is there some other supply constraint that you face? Or do you think you can be a huge part of the answer?
Well, look, the great thing about natural gas is it's abundant and relatively cheap, right? Depending on geopolitical tensions at the time, but yes. And our technology was, I think you said it perfectly, right? When you saw it, when you saw the factory, it's scalable, like, to some extent using the best practices of technology. We are a technology company at our heart. And the technology is super scalable, right? The machinery is super scalable. And so our vision is that one day we will be powering the planet.
Okay, so clearly you have the vision and the capabilities to power a huge part of the data center revolution. But talk about how you're using AI internally to maximize what you're doing.
Right. So like many of the companies here, AI has become a massive priority for us. And of course, we're taking on some of the productivity opportunities that come with AI. But our values as a company, we see ourselves as revolutionary, not evolutionary. And so we're really thinking about how do we rethink everything. Now, C3 AI has been a really great partner for us. In 2024, we began a pilot project to see whether, this fleet of boxes that we have, how could we ultimately improve the life of those boxes? And that's important because our value proposition is time to power, our value proposition is reliability, and we're looking to scale as quickly as possible so we can provide and really meet the moment. So we really need our boxes to be optimized. So just to give you a frame of reference, we have 11 billion data points that we process every single day across our fleet. So 11 billion data points, and we have a very small team optimizing the life of those machines. So I'm talking like a handful, right? And so we were using heuristics and decision making. So like one site could take 2 weeks to optimize. So when we spoke with C3 AI, we said, look, this is our problem. We'd like to see if we can use all this data that we've been collecting over the life of the company, 25 years or so, to ultimately improve the life of those boxes. So we started with this project, 2024, and the pilot went well. So then we expanded that to about 10% of our fleet. And through the work that the team has done with process optimization application, we're actually seeing our target was, okay, could we get to a 10% improvement of the life of the boxes? And we're seeing actually a 20% improvement.
Wow. So that's clear return on investment.
We have to handle everything that we do with a lot of care, but we will be working towards expanding our learnings across the fleet.
Yeah. You've talked quite a lot here about reliability. What makes this source of energy so reliable?
Well, because we don't have combustion and we don't have any mechanical parts, we refer to this as it's a solid state device. And so what that means is there are a few things that make that unique. I think one, we can switch on and off instantly, which is really important for load following. And then we have reliability of up to 5 nines, like 99.999% availability. So all of that becomes really important when we take a look at response to any issues, when we talk about, again, the life of the boxes.
Now, as I said, I've been to the manufacturing plant in Fremont. It's all made right there in Fremont.
Fremont and Delaware, so entirely made in America. And that was by choice. Years ago, we could have expanded and done our manufacturing in China, and in the end decided that the IP was just too important to make that decision.
So the sort of the internal pieces are made in Fremont and the boxes are assembled in Delaware.
Right, incorrect, that's right.
Will you ever expand to other locations?
I'm not going to break any news right here.
Oh, come on. Come on. You're among friends.
Look, what we've committed to the street is that we'll be at 2 gigawatts by the end of the year. But the beauty of the technology, and not only that, I think you saw when you went to the facility that we can easily scale to 5 gigawatts within our existing footprint. So look, the commitment that we've made to our customers is we will never be the bottleneck to power.
You will never be the bottleneck.
We will never be the bottleneck.
You can meet the demand.
We will. We fully intend, if our customers need us, we fully intend to be there.
What market share of, say, the data center power supply do you think you're supplying now? It's probably pretty small right now.
Well, we've only really been at it with the data center industry for, I mean, we've got a dozen or so data center customers. Equinix has been a customer for a decade, but this particular problem at this scale has really only been with us for about a year or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a long way to go.
And we're new technology, relatively new technology as well. We really had to get people to understand, well, what is it? What is a fuel cell? Is it the thing that you put in the car? Is it powered on hydrogen? Da, da, da. And so we've really had to get the market to understand, no, this is a solution that can meet the moment. And I think the market finally understands, again, just back to what I was saying, not only can meet the moment, it's actually a better solution.
Is it your view and is it Bloom's view that distributed power like this will become the standard for industry in the future?
We believe it will become this. So not only will on-site power be mandatory beyond just data centers, and this is what, one of
mandatory.
Mandatory, necessary, especially since if we take a look at all of the devices in the world that are all becoming digitized, all becoming powered with AI, we are moving to a world that requires, that is fully digitized and that requires digital power. And so that's what Bloom can really help enable.
Describe what you mean by digital power.
Right, so digital power, again, because it's not mechanical, because it doesn't combust. So for those of you who know about data centers, training loads are very different than most steady state loads that many companies require. They can fluctuate from 20% to 150% in milliseconds. And so Bloom and fuel cells, again, because you don't have the stop-start of the mechanical parts, you can actually respond to that in almost real time with technology like ultracapacitors and whatnot. So that's what digital power means. You have to be ready, you have to be available, you have to be reliable, and you have to be clean.
And that part of that reliable, I mean, the grid itself is a single point of failure in some ways, right?
I think in many ways we're seeing that, exactly.
So Bloom has a vision of a world that moves pretty much away from the grid and has had for some time.
Well, I think look, the grid is necessary. It was constructed for the Industrial Revolution, and you're going to need other solutions for the digital revolution. I think, again, it's an and. You'll still need the grid, but on-site power, our view is that on-site power will become more and more important.
And so cast it forward 5 years from now, what do you think we'll be seeing from Bloom and from energy in general in the world? What are people getting wrong about the energy system?
Look, maybe I'll just bring it down to back to the founding vision of the company.
Sure.
Which is all about...
Which, by the way, was, what, 25 years ago?
25 years ago. We're celebrating our anniversary this year, and the company has been at it.
And this is not a company that went through pivot after pivot after pivot after pivot. This was the vision 25 years ago.
This is what our founder and CEO saw coming, absolutely.
Yeah, but go ahead.
And it comes down to energy abundance. Not just energy abundance, and by the way, energy security as well. Not just here in the US, but KR, our founder, started his career in NASA and was inspired by a photograph that he saw of the world from outer space. And when you take a look at the world from outer space, there are some places that are fully lit up and others that are dark. And so a little bit like what cell phones did in parts of the world where you had an opportunity to skip all those poles and lines and go straight to digital technology, we see a world where on-site power and specifically fuel cells, because of the way that they're built and the capabilities that they have, can do the same for prosperity in other parts of the world, and that's what we're here to do.
Natalie, thanks so much for spending time with us, sharing that vision. It really is a great example of how AI can help make the world a better place.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.